All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Demoralized and Drugged, Banning Boyhood, Promoting Girls, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The truth is a knife. How woke ideology cuts men first, while women laugh from the jury box. I once watched a man get fired for saying male and female in a biology seminar, not for poor data, not for flawed methodology. For pronouns, the university called it inclusivity. I call it surrender. The temple of science, stone by stone, grant by grant, has been colonized by priests of political fiction who preach that truth bends to feelings. They replaced logic with liturgy, peer review with purity tests, and now expect us to nod as they inject gender ideology into genetics. Let me be clear. When a journal demands you affirm that DNA is non-binary, you are no longer doing science. You are performing penance in a cathedral of lies, and this isn't isolated. The NSF confirms a 230% rise in diversity statements for engineering hires since 2015. Merit? Excellence? Those are now microaggressions against the sacred cow of equity, a word that in practice means lower standards for favored groups. Remember Lysenko, Stalin's biologist who outlawed genetics because it didn't fit Marxist dogma, starved millions. Today's DEI mandarins aren't poisoning wheat, but they are poisoning minds, especially young men in STEM who now self-censor 41% of controversial findings, according to MIT. They fear not failure, they fear heresy trials. But here's the punchline. The same system that calls men toxic for speaking plainly will praise a woman who lies about paternity, aborts secretly, then forces a man to pay child support for a child not his. Courts in 46 states let her. 1 in 5 kids raised by men aren't theirs. 1 in 5, yet we're told men are the oppressors. I've seen a father destroyed by this, $300K in debt, genetically innocent, told by a judge, you should have used a condom. Meanwhile, Joe Biden stumbles through speeches like a drunk at a funeral, and the media coos how brave he is to be vulnerable. Try that in a boardroom, try that on a battlefield. You'll be laughed out or left for dead. Real men don't whimper, they plan, they command, they build. Elon Musk slept on a factory floor for years so rockets could fly. Most men today can't even stick to a 30-day nofap challenge. We've traded Spartan Agoj for TikTok therapy, mission for meltdown, but it's not too late. This book is a scalpel. It will cut out the rot. It will teach you to spot the lies, test a man's character, defend your future, and reclaim the truth before the last lab, the last court, the last mind is lost to the cult of woke. The rot in the temple, how social justice corrodes stem. The truth will set you free, Christ said. He didn't say the inclusive, trauma-informed, gender-affirming truth. He said the truth. And that truth is being burned at the stake in laboratories across America by the new priesthood of wokeism. I watched a peer-reviewed journal in genetics publish a solidarity statement with transgender activists in the methods section. Not an addendum, not a footnote. It was right there between PCR protocols and SMP analysis. This is not science. This is heresy with citations. When the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences prints political manifestos under the guise of equity, you know the temple has been defiled. The priesthood now wears pronoun pins and demands ideological confession before publishing. I remember the day I was told my grant proposal needed a diversity impact statement. I asked what that meant. Explain how your research promotes underrepresented identities in STEM, they said. My work, it was on protein folding in extremophiles. I asked if archaea had gender. They didn't laugh. That's when I knew we were in the late stages of civilizational collapse. Since 2015, engineering departments have increased their demand for diversity statements by 230%, according to the National Science Foundation. That's not a hiring policy, that's a purge mechanism. You don't get in for solving differential equations, you get in for genuflecting before the altar of identity. And if you refuse, you're not a fit. You're labeled a threat to inclusion, which in academic speak means heretic to be cancelled. Let's talk about Lysenko. Trofim Lysenko was a Soviet biologist who rejected Mendelian genetics because it didn't fit Marxist dogma. He claimed crops could be re-educated to produce more yield through environmental conditioning, Lamarckian nonsense. Stalin loved it. It felt fair, no inherited advantage. Everyone could grow wheat if they just tried. So they fired real geneticists, burned textbooks, and installed Lysenko's pseudoscience as state doctrine. Result? The Great Famine. Millions starved. Sound familiar? Today, we're not denying genes, we're denying sex. We're told that biology is a social construct, that a man can give birth, and that dissenting voices in endocrinology are transphobic. The only difference between 1930s USSR and 2020s NIH is the branding. Same poison. Same result, science murdered to serve ideology. I listened to NPR's shortwave podcast last year. The episode was titled, How Trans Scientists Are Changing Biology. It wasn't about research, it was about feelings. They interviewed a biologist who identifies as non-binary and said their DNA is non-binary too. I'm not making this up. Non-binary DNA. I paused the podcast and laughed until I choked. Then I cried, because this isn't a joke. This is what tenure looks like now. Real scientists who study actual DNA are being pushed out while charlatans perform identity rituals in lab coats. And if you criticize it, you're not wrong. You're dangerous. You're spreading misinformation, which means you value truth over narrative. This is what I call the epistemic capture cascade. It starts in sociology departments, round zero for Marxist infiltration. They replace logic with grievance, evidence with lived experience. Then they infect psychology, hence the explosion of gender dysphoria, diagnoses in children after activist redepositions. Then medicine doctors forced to prescribe puberty blockers against medical consensus. Then engineering suddenly, fluid dynamics must be decolonized. The rot spreads like mold in a sealed room. One field falls and the others follow, not because the ideology is true, but because speaking up means career suicide. The system rewards compliance, not discovery. I know Dr. Colin Wright, he's a real biologist. Studies evolutionary psychology. Published peer-reviewed work on sex differences. Then he dared say on a podcast that men and women are biologically different, not socially constructed. Biologically. The backlash was instant. Funding evaporated. Conference invitations canceled. Not because his data was flawed, because it was inconvenient. Meanwhile, a grad student at UCLA gets a $50,000 grant to study queer fungi and how mushrooms challenge heteronormativity. That's not science. That's performance art with a federal grant number. When absurdity is rewarded and truth punished, you're no longer in a university, you're in a cult. A 2023 MIT study found that 41% of STEM graduate students self-censor their research if it might be seen as politically insensitive. Think about that. 2 out of every 5 future scientists are lying to themselves and to us because they fear being called a bigot. One student told researchers they buried data showing sex differences in spatial reasoning. Why? I didn't want to end up like James Damore, and he shouldn't. Damore wrote a memo at Google pointing out biological differences. He got fired. That's the message. Your career ends if you tell the truth, so they don't. and science dies by 1,000 cuts of silence, the cult of equity has replaced excellence. I've seen engineering schools admit students with D averages because they check the right boxes. These students fail out, predictably, because you can't wish away differential equations. But the administrators don't care. Their real product isn't engineers, it's diversity metrics. They're not educating minds. They're laundering ideological virtue. Meanwhile, real students, mostly young men who studied calculus while their peers were on TikTok, are told they're overrepresented and denied scholarships. That's not fairness. That's revenge against competence. And how did we get here? Through the back door of Title IX. Originally meant to prevent sex discrimination, it's now used to enforce ideological conformity. DEI offices, funded by federal grants, have more power than department chairs. They don't evaluate research, they evaluate allegiance. Say the wrong thing about women in combat, or male suicide rates, or the fact that 85% of homeless adults are men, and you're investigated. Not for misconduct, for thought crime. The humanities fell first. Now STEM is bleeding out, and no one's sounding the alarm because the alarmists are the ones holding the knife. They say science is neutral. It's not. Science is the practice of truth-seeking by men who refuse to lie. But when logic is replaced by narrative rhetoric, by emotional blackmail, and grammar by linguistic vandalism, like calling a man they or calling chromosomes problematic, you've lost the trivium. And without grammar, logic, and rhetoric, you have no tools to defend truth. You're left with slogans, and slogans burn libraries. So what do? We resist. We refuse to write diversity statements. We publish in journals that haven't been captured. We form underground networks, merit rings, where real scientists share data, collaborate, and protect each other. We tell the truth even when it costs us. Because the alternative is surrender. And surrender means watching Western science, the greatest achievement of the human mind, die not by ignorance but by betrayal from within. You think I'm exaggerating? Ask Dr. Wright. Ask the grad students who deleted their data. Ask the engineers who left the field rather than pretend that inclusive bridge design is a real thing. The rot is real. The capture is total. But the cure is simple. Men of courage who speak the truth. No matter the cost, the temple is defiled, but it can be cleansed with fire if necessary. I've watched this play out in homes, schools, and boardrooms. Masculinity isn't broken because men are weak, but because the system is designed to break them early and keep them docile. Every time a boy is told to use his words instead of climb a tree, every time he's medicated for being restless instead of challenged to channel his energy, we're not raising men, we're manufacturing dependence. The real war isn't between men and women. It's between those who build and those who consume, between those who delay gratification and those who scream for dopamine hits. And make no mistake, the state, the schools, and the feminist machine have chosen sides, the measure of a man testing character through real-world trials. Spare the rod and spoil the child isn't just old wives' lore, it's evolutionary programming. I taught my son to save $20 a month for a year to buy a used dirt bike. No handouts, no emotional blackmail. Just cold, hard arithmetic and delayed gratification. He learned patience, ownership, and pride. Meanwhile, across the street, the neighbor's wife buys her kid everything the moment he whines: new shoes, iPhone, even a hoverboard he broke in 2 weeks. She calls it love. I call it emotional castration. By age 14, her son screams when asked to take out the trash. My son rebuilt his dirt bike engine at 15. One was raised to endure, the other to demand. One will lead, the other will beg. Elon Musk didn't become the first man to land rockets because he meditated on abundance vibes or sold spiritual grift courses. He slept on the factory floor at SpaceX for 3 years straight. He bet his entire PayPal fortune twice on rockets that kept exploding. While TikTok hustlers filmed themselves in rented apartments sipping matcha and selling 2,000 money mindset courses, Musk was vomiting from stress and overwork, watching his children in daycare through a cracked iPhone screen. Real men build, fakes perform. One risks everything for a legacy. The other risks nothing for a like. The woke economy rewards performance of success, not achievement. That's why so many men today are broke, bitter, and addicted to porn, because no one taught them that value comes from sacrifice, not self-expression. The Federal Reserve's 2023 report reads like a final verdict on the state of young men. 64% of males under 35 hold less than $1,000 in savings. Picture this: 2 out of 3 young men are a single emergency from total financial ruin. This isn't about lacking money, it's about being stripped of purpose. We've swapped the male instinct to build and sustain with a culture that glorifies female performance and male passivity. Women gain fame for crying on social media. Men are told to process emotions while their paychecks shrink and custody laws erase their role as fathers. The system dishes out government aid freely, yet punishes men for expressing frustration in digital spaces. This isn't fairness, it's a one-sided battle where victim status is used to weaken men's independence and silence their resistance. Watch There Will Be Blood again. Daniel Plainview isn't a villain. He's a relic of a time when men built empires, not Instagram pages. He drills, he conquers, he creates value from nothing. Compare that to today's simfluencers who film themselves crying about toxic masculinity while begging for PayPal donations to heal their inner child. One man extracts oil from the earth. The other extracts sympathy from weak men. One leaves pipelines and refineries. The other leaves a trail of unpaid Venmo requests and broken relationships. The West was built by Plainviews. It's being buried by simps. I call it the masculine investment ladder. Tier 1, immediate consumption, junk food, porn, video games. Tier 2, short-term pleasure, drinking, hookups, retail therapy. Tier 3, skill acquisition, coding, lifting, reading. Tier 4, long-term investment, saving, business, marriage. Tier 5, legacy, philosophy, children, nation building. Most men today are stuck on Tier 1, numbed by dopamine hits and feminist propaganda, telling them they're oppressors for wanting to succeed. But here's the truth. You cannot master the world if you can't master your own bladder. At 2 a.m. self-mastery isn't optional. It's the price of admission to manhood. I ran a 90-day discipline challenge with 200 men. No porn, no junk food, daily journaling, 1 new skill per week, public speaking, Excel, cold showers. After 90 days, 76% had lost weight, 68% had gotten a raise or promotion, and 41% had started a business. One man went from living in his mum's basement to running a 6-figure e-commerce store. Another reconciled with his estranged daughter. The secret structure, not self-love, not vibe structure. Jordan Peterson wasn't joking when he said, clean your room. That single act forces you to confront chaos, impose order, and take responsibility. It's the first domino. Fail that and you'll fail everything else. Walter Mischel's Stanford marshmallow experiment wasn't just about kids waiting for candy. It was a biological crystal ball. Boys who waited 15 minutes for 2 marshmallows instead of eating one now had higher SAT scores, lower BMI, and 1/10 the arrest rate by age 30. Delayed gratification isn't a soft skill. It's the core of masculine virtue. But today, schools teach girls to express their emotions, while boys are medicated for having testosterone. We've pathologized male focus and rebranded it as ADHD. We've turned patience into a disorder. This isn't education, it's chemical castration. The left knows this. That's why they attack fatherhood, promote no-fault divorce, and fund feminist NGOs that lie about domestic violence statistics. CDC data shows men are 50% more likely to be victims of domestic violence, yet 93% of government funding goes to female victims. The abortion rate? Over 60 million since Roe v. Wade. Women walk away. Men pay child support for kids that don't exist. Family courts award custody to mothers 83% of the time, even when they're addicts or abusers. This isn't justice, it's institutionalized betrayal, and men are waking up. I don't care about equality, I care about truth. Men are biologically wired for mission, not mood rings. Testosterone drives risk, competition, and long-term planning. Feminism calls it toxic. I call it survival. The moment we stopped raising boys to hunt, build, and protect, and started raising them to apologize for their existence, we doomed the future. The West didn't fall because of barbarians. It fell because men forgot how to be men. The cure, discipline, purpose, truth, not therapy, not TikTok, truth, wake up, save your soul, build something real. I was once that man, not at a networking event, worse. In front of a classroom full of freshmen, asked to introduce myself, I mumbled, looked at the floor and felt my face burn like a furnace. That moment haunted me. Not because it was humiliating, though it was, but because I realized I'd been trained to fail. Trained by schools that punish boys for standing tall, by therapists who call confidence arrogance, by a culture that rewards female manipulation and crucifies male certainty. I spent years unlearning weakness, reprogramming my instincts, studying the body language of kings and warriors, not poets and patients. And when I finally walked into a room and owned it, no apology, no hesitation, no seeking permission, I understood the truth. Leadership isn't given, it's taken. And every man who hesitates is paying the submission tax in silence. The theater of weakness, how nervousness is weaponized against leadership. I watched a man choke on his own saliva at a networking event because someone asked his name, not a loaded political question, not a moral dilemma, just, "Hi, I'm Lisa, what's your name?" And he froze, lips parted, eyes darting, sweat beading on his forehead, like he'd just been caught stealing from a church collection plate. I didn't laugh, I felt sick, not at him, but at the system that made him that way. A system that has spent decades teaching boys that to speak with authority, to enter a room like they own it, to look a woman in the eye and say, "I am here," is aggression, is toxic, is dangerous. Meanwhile, girls are trained to giggle, flirt, manipulate, and weaponize helplessness like it's a goddamn Olympic sport. And we wonder why men are failing. Look at what we've done. We've pathologized dominance in men and deified submission in women. We've turned the natural order into a psychiatric case file. Let's get real. When Joe Biden stumbles over his words on live television, drops his phone, forgets his own name, or stares into the void like a man who's just realized he's been dead for 6 years, what does the media do? They coo, they say, "Oh, he's so relatable. He's human. He's vulnerable." Try that with a Fortune 500 CEO. Watch him forget his talking points, slur his words, and look like he's trying to remember which planet he's on, and the board fires him by lunch. But when a woman does it, when Kamala Harris mumbles through a press conference like she's reading a ransom note from her own subconscious, still gets promoted, still gets airtime, because weakness in women is endearing, in men it's terminal. This isn't bias, it's warfare, a silent cultural coup executed with smiles, tears, and emotional intelligence seminars. Harvard Business School ran a study. 78% of promotions in corporate America go to men who project calm authority under pressure. Not the ones who cry in meetings. Not the ones who say, "I feel more than I know." The ones who say, "Here's the plan, follow me." But try telling that to the school system that suspends a boy for telling a girl to shut up during class. While the girl who called him a toxic pig gets a participation trophy in gender equity. We're training boys to fear their own voices. We're medicating their energy, drugging their instincts, and calling it mental health. Meanwhile, girls are taught to exploit nervousness in men like a pressure point in jiu-jitsu. "Oh, he's so sweet," they say about the guy who can't make eye contact. Translation, "He's easy to control." Then they call the confident man creepy or intimidating. Translation, "I can't manipulate him." Spartan boys at age 7 were taken from their mothers and thrown into the agoj, a brutal training system where weakness meant death. They learned to fight, to endure pain, to speak in public assemblies without trembling. Today, we give boys Ritalin for having energy and tell them to process their emotions, while girls are out there running social circles like mafia families. The West was built by men who could stand before a crowd of armed warriors and speak without blinking. Now, we're told that leadership is about listening, sharing, and being safe spaces. That's not leadership, that's surrender. That's the linguistic surrender of a dying civilization. Look at Hollywood. James Bond coolly taking out enemies, winning over women, never seeking approval, was the ultimate image of masculine capability. Today we get Ted Lasso, a guy whose whole identity is built on emotional shutdown, dodging tension, and craving validation. He doesn't guide, he begs. He doesn't take charge, he embraces, and society celebrates it. Why? Because men who lack strength make women feel dominant. And dominant women, especially those with shaky emotional balance, despise self-assured men. They can't manipulate them, they can't shame them. So they label assertiveness as harmful and surrender as advanced. It's not advancement, it's subjugation dressed up as growth. I call it the submission tax, the invisible penalty every man pays when he fails to take control. Lower status, fewer opportunities, zero sexual desirability. Women don't want men who share feelings, they want men who take charge. The data is undeniable. UCLA ran a study where actors played identical roles in leadership scenarios, same qualifications, same experience. The ones who spoke first, stood tallest, and held eye contact were chosen as leaders every time, not because they were better, because they looked like leaders. And that's the truth no therapist wants to admit. Leadership isn't about empathy, it's about dominance, it's about taking the fucking floor. So I train men to do drills, not therapy. Drills, hold eye contact for 7 seconds. Speak 20% slower. Stand in doorways like you own them. Lead the group when walking, don't follow. These aren't quirks, they're weapons. Because every time a man hesitates, he sends a signal. I am not in control. And the moment you signal that, the world, especially women, will treat you like prey. Watch Andrew Tate enter a room. He doesn't ask for attention, he takes it. The chatter dies. Eyes turn, he doesn't smile, he doesn't nod. He occupies space like a king, returning to his throne. Now watch the average beta male, eyes down, phone in hand, hoping someone will notice him. Pathetic and entirely preventable. Modern therapy culture has done more damage to men than war, poverty, and disease combined. It's turned confidence into a pathology and submission into a virtue. Oh, you're so confident. Don't you think that's a defense mechanism? No, you glorified nanny. It's called being competent. We've medicalized masculinity and called it healing. We've taken the traits that built cathedrals, launched rockets, and won wars, calmness, focus, decisiveness, and rebranded them as toxic because they make insecure women uncomfortable. Newsflash, strong men aren't the problem, weak cultures are, and the cure isn't more vulnerability, it's victory, it's dominance, it's men remembering who they are and refusing to apologize for it. I used to believe the system was fair, until I saw a friend lose everything over a lie whispered in the dark. He trusted her, he honored his word, and the courts, they laughed at him. That moment cracked my worldview open. I started digging not into feminist talking points, not into therapist-approved narratives, but into court records, medical data, real human wreckage. What I found wasn't a few bad apples. It was a rot at the core, a legal structure engineered not for justice, but for extraction. Men are not seen as fathers. We are seen as wallets with pulse. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The fatherhood trap, snapping shut on generation after generation of trusting fools, the silent war, reproductive coercion, and the legal asymmetry against men. The law takes from a man his freedom, his money, his future, all without his consent, while the woman who lied to him walks free, praised for her choice. This is not justice. This is legalized theft with a womb. I met a man in a gym parking lot last winter. Snow on the ground, beer in hand, he told me his story like it was a war wound. 10 years of fatherhood, weekly soccer games, birthday parties, college fund, then a DNA test, ordered by her because she wanted to know the truth, reveals the kid isn't his, not even close. The real father, her yoga instructor from 2013, the court. Laughed at his request to stop child support, said he, assumed the risk by having sex. Assumed the risk, since when is trusting a married woman a crime punishable by 30 years of alimony? He now pays $1,200 a month to raise another man's child, the ultimate cuckold tax, levied by a feminist judiciary that sees men as ATMs with testicles. Consider Florida 2022. Michael Brusewitz takes a paternity test, result 0. 0% match. Yet a judge rules he must pay $30,000 in past child support. Why? The court says, you should have used a condom. Think about that. Florida has decided biology means nothing, only financial duty counts. It makes no difference if you were deceived. It makes no difference if she was unfaithful. It makes no difference if she concealed prior abortions or medical help to get pregnant. If she carries a child to term, you foot the bill. 46 states enforce similar laws. 46. This isn't a rare case. This is how the system works. And where is the moral outcry? Where are the documentaries? The Baby M case was turned into a Hallmark sob story about a surrogate mother's pain. Never mind that the man who signed the contract was later deemed legally irrelevant the moment the woman changed her mind. The courts sided with her again. Always. There is no Father M case, no Netflix special on the man whose life was erased because a woman decided she wanted child support. The media treats male disposability like weather, background noise, not a crisis. This is what I call the fatherhood trap. A one-way reproductive contract. Women get to choose, abort, lie, coerce, deceive, while men get to pay. Forever, it's Roe v. Wade in reverse. She can terminate the pregnancy at 23 weeks for mental health. You can't terminate your financial obligation at any point, even if you were drugged, lied to, or never consented to parenthood. That's not equality. That's asymmetrical warfare waged from the bedroom to the courtroom. The numbers don't lie. The National Center for Health Statistics confirms 1 in 5 paternity tests reveal non-paternity. That's 20%. 1 in 5 men raising kids that aren't theirs, and yet family courts still enforce child support with the fury of Old Testament judges. Why? Because the entire feminist legal framework runs on one unspoken dogma. Women are victims, men are paychecks. It doesn't matter if you're a saint. It doesn't matter if you're a scholar. If you have a Y chromosome and a pulse, you're a walking sperm bank with a credit rating. I've seen the fallout, men broken by this system. One man I know, a former Marine, lost his house, his career, and his wife to a false paternity scam. He tried to fight it, filed motions, hired lawyers. The judge told him to man up and pay. 2 months later, he was found in his garage with a shotgun. No note. Just silence. Studies show men falsely accused of paternity have higher rates of depression and suicide than combat veterans. But you won't see that on the evening news. No think piece on toxic masculinity when it's the system killing us. And what's the remedy? Praxa, action. Not whining, not virtue signaling. Real tactical self-defense. I notarize my sexual consent with blockchain timestamps. I demand paternity tests at birth before I sign anything. I refuse marriage without a prenup that includes genetic verification clauses. Call me paranoid. Call me extreme. But I'd rather be called that than be another deadbeat dad statistic. Paying for a lie I never agreed to. This isn't about hatred, it's about honesty. Women can abort. They can abort secretly. They can lie about birth control. They can falsify paternity. They can weaponize pregnancy like a legal IED, and the state arms them with every tool. Men, we're disarmed at birth, told to be responsible while the system rewards deception. The genocentric legal machine grinds men into dust and calls it family values. Wake up, the silent war isn't coming, it's already here. And it's being fought in divorce courts, on DNA swabs, in the ruins of men's lives. The only way out is truth, total, unflinching, brutal truth. Demand proof, document everything. Fight like your life depends on it, because it does. They want you broken, silent pain. Don't give them the satisfaction. You think science is sacred? Try telling that to Colin Wright, the biologist who had his grants vanish like mist because he refused to genuflect before the altar of gender ideology. They didn't disprove his research. They didn't challenge his data. They just silenced him because truth is now a hate crime in the cathedral of wokeness. This isn't diversity. This is heresy hunting disguised as inclusion. And while they're busy renaming DNA to non-binary inheritance patterns, real men are waking up. Men like the SpaceX engineers sleeping on factory floors, while TikTok gurus sell passive income dreams from rented condos. You know what separates those men? One plans for Mars, the other plans for lunch. One builds rockets, the other builds OnlyFans accounts. And you, right now, reading this, you're choosing which tribe you belong to. You're not just learning facts. You're reclaiming your mind from 50 years of feminist brainwashing, genocentric legal traps. and academic fraud so thick it could choke a Soviet commissar. Think about this. 1 in 5 men are raising kids that aren't theirs, and the courts call that justice. Meanwhile, women abort on demand, lie about paternity, and still collect child support like it's a subscription service. That's not equality, that's war, and you've been disarmed by lies, but not anymore. You now know the fatherhood trap, the submission tax, the epistemic capture cascade. These aren't theories. They're autopsies of a dying civilization. And you're the coroner. You see the wounds, you name the killers, and now you fight back. You stop self-censoring. You demand paternity tests, you build real skills. You master your body, your time, your speech. You walk into rooms like Andrew Tate walks into courtrooms, unapologetic, dominant, free. You don't beg for respect. You command it because you are not a resource to be exploited. You are not a paycheck with a pulse. You are the architect, the builder, the last sane man in the asylum, and the world needs you, awake, armed, and angry. Now go, speak, share, destroy the lies. Save the next man before the system grinds him into dust. This isn't just knowledge. This is rebellion, and it starts with you. And now the sponsored book introduction, Demoralized and Drugged, banning boyhood, promoting girls. Look around, see what they've done to our sons. I watched my own boy get slapped with an ADHD diagnosis because he climbed trees and argued with his teacher. They wanted to pump him full of pills to make him sit still and shut up. That was the moment I understood. This isn't medicine, it's chemical warfare against boyhood itself. They're actively demoralizing an entire generation of males, turning natural fire into docile ash and calling it progress. The result? Look at the dating pools. Women are drowning in a sea of indecisive, purposeless men medicated into compliance. The very beta males this system manufactures. You feel it, the frustration, the lack of real men. This book, Demoralized and Drugged, banning boyhood, promoting girls, exposes the deliberate sabotage. We'll dissect the classroom warfare, where male energy is punished as disruptive while female traits are rewarded. We'll reveal how the push to put girls above boys in every metric isn't equality. It's gynocentrism in overdrive, eroding the foundations of a functional society. We'll tackle the toxic masculinity lie, the ultimate double bind where men are shamed for being strong and despised for showing weakness. We'll prove with hard evolutionary biology and psychology why gender equality is a dangerous myth that ignores innate differences and destroys the complementary strengths that build civilization. Forget the feminist lies wrapped in pseudo-academic jargon. This is about the raw, uncomfortable truths they suppress. I've spent years researching this crisis. I've seen the data on plummeting testosterone levels and soaring male depression. I've tracked the manufactured decline of fathers in media, replaced by bumbling fools. I've documented the sterilization of society where healthy male risk-taking is pathologized and the purpose vacuum leaves men adrift. Chapters like the chemical castration of boys, the beta male factory, weaponized education, and the demonization toolkit lay bare the systematic attack. The marriage market collapse and sexual sabotage show you the devastating consequences. But this isn't just doom. Counter-strike tactics, rebuilding brotherhood, and the restoration give you the tools, concrete, actionable strategies to reclaim your innate strength, your purpose, and your rightful place. This book is for rational men, men who see through the progressive lies, men tired of being told their nature is a disorder, men who want to lead, provide, and build again. If you're ready to cut through the noise and fight back, this is your manual. You'll gain the understanding and the practical steps to break free from the demoralization trap and become the capable, resilient man you were meant to be. If you're still clinging to the wreckage of feminist ideology, if the phrase gender equality makes you nod in agreement, if you think boys need to be drugged to fit into their feminized classrooms, put this book down now. Seriously. Go read a romance novel. Take up knitting. Do something else. You won't like what you find here because these truths will shatter your comfortable illusions. This book is for men who value reality, biology, and the restoration of sanity. For everyone else, the door's that way. Don't let it hit you on the way out. The crisis is real, the damage is deep. The time for reclaiming masculinity is now. Get this book. Arm yourself with the truth. Rebuild. Demoralized and Drugged. Banning Boyhood, Promoting Girls. Written by Conrad Reicher. Buy now. Links in description.